Beware of falling squid and the mom from Titanic.
Will the lifeboats be seated according to class?
Because it's HBO's newest series, Watchmen, that hopefully won't end in disaster.
And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
In this video, I'll be taking a deep dive into the episode and discuss some theories on where the series might be headed. So strap in, because here we go. Watchmen begins in the style of an early 1900s movie depicting the arrest of a corrupt lawman at the hands of what appears to be a hooded vigilante. This vigilante turns out to be famous real-life US Marshal Bass Reeves, who was the first black marshal in the United States and during his time as marshal arrested more than 3,000 felons. The all-white townspeople clap and thank him for his service, which is in direct contrast to what we're about to find in 1921 Tulsa, Oklahoma. The setting for the 1921 Tulsa race riots in which over 100 black men and women were killed. A 2001 commissioner's report concluded that the city had conspired with the mob of white citizens to systematically stifle and kill its black citizens. We're introduced to this man, simply known as the father, who takes his son to be sent away from the violence of the city, writing on a piece of paper, "Watch over this boy." The sad irony of it all is that a man who joined the armed forces to protect his country is so shamelessly betrayed by it. But the symbolism of a new America rising from the ashes is shown through the wrapping of a young child in the American flag as the old America burns in the background. Flash forward almost 100 years to 2019 Tulsa. This policeman, Charlie Sutton, just like Bass Reeves in the introduction, wears a mask to protect his real identity, and will later find that all lawmen do this. A routine traffic stop gives us our first introduction to a member of the cavalry, seen here by the brief glimpse of the Rorschach mask in the glove compartment. The cavalry is a white supremacist organization whose members wear Rorschach masks in honor of Walter Kovacs, the original Rorschach from the graphic novels. At the end of the novel, Rorschach delivers his journal to a right-wing publication called The New Frontiersman, but how exactly this manifested in the creation of the cavalry is yet to be known. This scene also gives us valuable insight into the world of 2019. Tulsa has skyscrapers, there are these what seem to be power generators along the highway. Officers must get permission before using their weapons, yet there doesn't seem to be any laptops, cell phones, or internet. The officer asks permission to use his weapon from a man known as Panda. I'm doubting that's his real name, so I think it's fair to assume, like the mask, this is an effort to protect one's identity. Unfortunately for the officer, it's too little too late, and he's viciously gunned down by the cavalry member. An event which sparks Sheriff Judd Crawford to miss the rest of his Oklahoma performance. At the hospital, we're introduced to a character known as Looking Glass, a top interrogator and behavioral scientist. Judd asks him to make sure background checks are conducted on all the nurses and orderlies who saw the officer's face, once again hinting that things are so bad in this alternate world that the utmost care in protecting one's identity is taken. We've learned that the cavalry has been relatively quiet, and for them to do such a brazen attack like this is out of the ordinary, so whatever was in this guy's truck was likely something very important. Judd visits Charlie's wife, asking her to lie about what happened, that it was a carjacking gone wrong. We're starting to get a better sense at the extreme lengths Judd will go to protect the identity of his officers, but whether there are alternative motivations for this remain to be seen. We also get this brief shot of Dr. Manhattan on Mars playing Sandcastle, having sequestered himself there and opted to stay away from the affairs of humanity after the events of the graphic novel. We're then introduced to Angela Abar, a baker with a mysterious past. She was born in Vietnam, which we learn is now an American state, likely after the success of the war due to Dr. Manhattan. There she was a police officer, and we get our first reference to the White Knight, an event which led to the creation of laws requiring officers to wear masks to protect their identities. You can also make out the current president of the United States in the background here, Robert Redford, and the use of the term Redfordations, a play on the word reparations. Whether these reparations are for her getting shot or for what the US did in Vietnam remains to be seen, but it's an awkward thing to be brought up, so much so that Angela's son Topher beats up his classmate Tommy for mentioning it. It's also possible that Redfordations are reparations for years of slavery, but we just simply don't know at this time. Topher tells his mother all he was trying to do was stand up for her when all of a sudden it begins to rain squid. We get this shot of a giant air raid siren that warns people of upcoming squid showers, and on it says Squid Information, tune into AM 560. Even the back of the road maintenance vehicle here has a picture of a squid, and right behind Tommy in class is a poster depicting the anatomy of one. Squid also happens to be the name of Adrian Veidt's secret project that teleported a giant squid-like mutation to New York which killed millions. This squid rain is somehow connected to this. Outside the Abar home we meet Angela's husband Cal and daughter Rosie. Notice the alternate US flag, which has more than 50 states on it. Angela gets a pager stating Little Bighorn, a nod to the 1876 Battle of Little Bighorn, in which combined forces of the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes defeated General Custer and the 7th Cavalry Regiment. Little Bighorn seems to be a call to arms to fight against the now modern-day 7th Cavalry. And yes, we have advertisements for the latest hit TV show, American Hero Story, Minutemen, recounting the tale of the original Minutemen heroes. On the bus, you can even make out Hooded Justice, the first ever masked Avenger. As Angela passes through the streets, we see a mural of the Dreamland Theater, the same one from the beginning, and this newspaper here has some fun information, such as Adrian Veidt officially declared dead. Adrian, also known as Ozymandias, was one of the original members of the Watchmen. He was the one that created the giant squid in order to trick the world in uniting against a common alien enemy, thereby averting World War III. There's also 2 other articles. KKK vandalism forces Statue of Liberty closure, perhaps because the KKK hate the symbol of welcoming immigrants. And Boise squid shower destroys homeless camp, kills 2. Now here we have an old man asking when Angela's bakery will open, and I can't help but think this is the same boy from the beginning, even though that would make him over 100 years old. Notice how both the boy and the man have the same mole on the side of their face. He asks her if she thinks he can lift 200 pounds, a very odd question, but perhaps this is because at the end of the episode, this is exactly what we'll see. The back of the bakery is where Angela keeps her costume for her heroic alter ego, Sister Night, a cross-wielding masked Avenger. Also fun to notice, the code for the back room is 1985, when the events of the original Watchmen take place. As she drives off, we see the Williams Dreamland Theater playing Oklahoma and the Nixonville trailer. In this alternate universe, Nixon was never impeached and held office for at least 5 terms. Sister Night punches a suspect she believes to be involved with Charlie Sutton's murder and makes her way to the police department, where the 7th Cavalry has sent a warning to the police. In it, the 7th Cavalry have taken Rorschach's line of "Soon the world will shout save us and we will whisper no," and revised it to "Soon all the whores and race traders will shout save us and we will whisper no." So it seems like they've taken this Rorschach journal and twisted it to fit their own worldview. In the meeting, other masked officers like Pirate Jenny and Red Scare have joined, all of whom want Judd to enact Article 4, which allows a 24-hour use of firearms without having to go through Panda to release them. Judd ends the meeting with the Latin phrase "Qui custodiet ipsus custodis," which translates to "Who watches the watchers," in which the group responds, "We watch them." Sister Night shows up in Judd's office like she owns the place, drinking from an owl mug, which may be a small nod to Night Owl. She asks Judd if she can put her perp in the pod, to which he agrees. We get our first glimpse of the pod, a device which allows Looking Glass to tell whether or not a perpetrator is lying. We get some interesting images here, like Richard Nixon on Mount Rushmore and General Custer when they talk about the 7th Cavalry. Looking Glass mentions transdimensional attacks, referring to how Adrian Veidt teleported a giant squid-like creature in the 1980s. The suspect is deemed to be a liar, and Sister Night goes to town on him in an attempt to find out who shot their fellow officer. The suspect informs them of a cattle ranch where members of the 7th Cavalry are collecting batteries from watches. What they'll be used for, we'll find out in episodes to come. Sister Night goes after the shooter, and after she's successful, takes a moment to look at this ad for Dollar Bill, one of the original Minutemen, grabbing a young black boy. But before she can question the shooter, he takes what appears to be a cyanide pill while the others get away. Judd and Pirate Jenny chase them in an airship that looks eerily similar to Night Owl's. They're able to take down the criminal plane, but not without crashing their own. Galloping through what appears to be the English countryside is the home of Adrian Veidt, aka Ozymandias. Notice the shape of the building here looks markedly similar to the structure Dr. Manhattan destroys on Mars. Dr. Manhattan has his reasons for hating Adrian, as Adrian was the one responsible for framing him as being responsible for the interdimensional squid attack that killed millions. But let's also be wary that his name is actually never spoken, and we saw earlier in the paper that Adrian is dead. So either this takes place in a different time or dimension, it's not Adrian at all, or that his death was a hoax and he lives in solitude, or at least with his servants, who I suspect are some sort of robots, as evidenced by Mr. Phillips handing him a horseshoe instead of a knife, and the bad tasting cake they baked him. Remember that Ozymandias is extremely wealthy and is known for making futuristic technology, so this is totally within the realm of possibility. They're celebrating his anniversary, but we're never told exactly what anniversary it's for. He's also written a play called The Watchmaker's Son, and Dr. Manhattan just happens to be the son of a watchmaker, so there's some sort of connection there. At dinner, Judd snorts some cocaine, a problem Angela seems to be aware of. The bird's eye view here looks like an eye, like someone or something is watching them. Angela is concerned about the duffel bag of batteries found from the crash site. They're made of synthetic lithium, which were discontinued after they were found to have caused cancer. In the novel, Dr. Manhattan was framed by Adrian, who accused him of causing the cancer that killed his co-workers. Judd tells the governor he has everything under control when he's paged by the hospital that Charlie Sutton has woken up, and we get this weird photo of what appears to be a younger Judd with his father. While making his way over to the hospital, we hear over the radio the mention of Senator Keene, the man who tabled the infamous Keene Act, which banned costume crime fighters save those sanctioned by the government. It appears that his son Joe Jr. will be running against President Redford, who has been in office now for 30 years. Judd's car is taken out by tire spikes, and Angela receives a mystery phone call from the man in the wheelchair, who has magically strung up Judd at the ripe old age of 105. He's still holding the letter, "Watch over this boy." The song "Poor Judd is Dead" from Oklahoma plays as a drop of blood smears on his badge, just like on the happy face symbol of the original Watchmen graphic novel. Now we can assume that the wheelchair man wasn't the one to prop Judd up on that tree, but that he's working with someone else. I also believe that series creator Damon Lindelof will likely incorporate time travel into this season, or perhaps multiple dimensions. We already know that Lindelof has played with time on Lost, and the Watchmen universe has dealt with transporting creatures from other dimensions, leaving me to believe this may not be the last time we see Jed. After all, what was the point of this photo here if he didn't have some role to play in future episodes? Comment below if you have an answer. It's still too early to solidify some of the major theories out there, but I hope you'll stick with me as I break down all the Watchmen episodes. Make sure to give the video a like and subscribe, and let me know what you thought about the first episode. You can also reach me on Twitter at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.